I stood in Daniel Whitmore's office, his words landing with surgical precision. "Pack your things. Your position has been eliminated." It still hit like a punch, even though I'd been bracing for it. 1 week after Eleanor Grant's funeral, and here I was, fired. The timing was no accident. I kept my face calm, the storm inside invisible. "I understand." Daniel slid a folder across his mahogany desk. "We'll need all client information transferred immediately, especially any contacts you've handled directly." His voice lowered with a tinge of greed. "And we'll need the details on the Pacific Northwest accounts. Eleanor mentioned them before her unfortunate passing." That's when I knew. They had no clue she'd transferred the entire $1.2 million portfolio to me 3 days before her heart attack, or that I'd mailed my resignation that very morning. "I'll gather everything," I said with a polite smile. He seemed disappointed not to see tears or begging. Instead, I gave him the professionalism that clearly unsettled him. "You have until the end of the day," he said, waving me out. I walked past curious stares, some guilty, others satisfied to see one less competitor. At my desk, I began packing my few personal items into the small cardboard box HR had so thoughtfully provided. "How considerate," I muttered. Martha from accounting approached quietly. "Is it true?" "Apparently my position has been eliminated," I replied, wrapping the crystal paperweight Eleanor gave me on my 3-year anniversary. "That's ridiculous. You landed that Harbor Tech account last month." I shrugged. Business decisions don't always make sense from the outside. What I didn't say was that this had been Eleanor's plan all along. 6 months earlier, she'd called me into her office long after everyone had gone home. I was 38, 5 years into the company, outperforming everyone yet constantly overlooked for promotions. "I've watched you outshine everyone for years," she said, sliding me a glass of water. "And yet, they keep passing you over. The executive team has a particular vision, and we don't fit it." She didn't have to explain further. The all-male leadership protected their own. Eleanor had slammed into that glass ceiling herself and stopped trying to break through. "I'm dying," she said bluntly. "Cancer. 6 months, maybe less. When I'm gone, they'll carve up my clients unless—" Her plan was daring. She'd gradually introduce me to her most valuable accounts, the Pacific Northwest portfolio worth $1.2 million annually. Officially, I was just providing support. Unofficially, I was becoming indispensable to them. For months, we worked in plain sight. I met innovative startups, family-owned manufacturers, and loyal long-term partners. Eleanor introduced me as her right hand, and trust grew naturally. 2 weeks before she died, she signed and notarized the legal transfer. She even paid the transfer fees herself. "They'll come for you," she warned. "Be ready." When she passed, I mourned sincerely. But beneath my grief, the plan was already in motion. At the funeral, Daniel gripped my shoulder, voice dripping with false sympathy. "Such a loss," he said. I simply nodded, knowing the real story was just beginning. "We'll need to talk about transitioning her account soon," Daniel Whitmore said, his voice low but urgent. I nodded, eyes lowered. "Whatever the company needs." That evening, a text from the CEO lit up my phone. "Meeting tomorrow. Bring complete client list." I stayed up until dawn preparing 2 sets of documents. One contained every client except the Pacific Northwest portfolio. The other was my resignation letter, effective immediately with 2 weeks' notice so I wouldn't be required to work. The next morning, the CEO scanned my incomplete list. "Where are the Pacific Northwest accounts?" "I'm not familiar with those," I said evenly. "She handled them personally," he muttered, jaw tightening. "Search her files. We need those clients." For a week, I staged a careful charade, pretending to dig through Eleanor Grant's office while secretly meeting the clients she had already transferred to me. Every evening, Daniel demanded updates. Every morning, I claimed I'd found nothing. Without those accounts, quarterly projections plunged. The executive team locked themselves in closed-door meetings. Then came my termination notice. Daniel could barely hide his satisfaction, expecting me to crumble. Instead, I boxed up my things. Martha from accounting touched my arm. "What will you do now?" I smiled. "I have some ideas." Until today, I was Lauren Keating, 42, single by choice senior account manager at one of Seattle's most prestigious consulting firms. I grew up in a small Oregon fishing town where patience was survival, and my mother ran a hardware store while raising 2 kids alone. College scholarships taught me persistence. Corporate life taught me that playing by the rules is a privilege reserved for those who make them. If you want to see what happens when the next chapter of this story unfolds, hit that subscribe button now so you don't miss the moment everything changes again. Eleanor saw that in me from the start. While others viewed me as a quiet workhorse, she noticed the calculations behind my eyes. The first time she called me into her office, I thought I was in trouble. Instead, she asked my opinion on a celebrated proposal. "It's fundamentally flawed," I said. She smiled. "Tell the client exactly that tomorrow." We did, and the client doubled their contract. From then on, Eleanor pushed me harder, giving me more responsibility. I boosted my portfolio's revenue by 30%, but when promotions came, men with half my results, like Daniel, got the titles. "You're threatening to them," Eleanor once told me. "You outperform them without playing their games. That scares them more than anything." She understood because she'd lived it. The only female executive, she was respected but never truly included, excluded from golf outings where decisions were made, her ideas ignored until repeated by men. 6 months before her death, she called me in. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer. 6 months, maybe less. "When I'm gone, they'll tear apart my accounts unless—" Her plan was simple and brilliant. She'd quietly introduce me to her most valuable clients. The Pacific Northwest portfolio, worth $1.2 million annually, under the guise of support work. By the time she died, I'd be their trusted point of contact. 2 weeks before the end, she notarized the transfer and paid the fees herself. "They'll come for you," she warned. "Be ready." When she passed, I grieved, but I was ready. Eleanor's plan was bold in its simplicity. The Pacific Northwest portfolio held 23 clients she'd personally cultivated over 15 years, small to mid-sized companies that brought in $1.2 million annually. They weren't the flashy accounts executives bragged about in quarterly meetings. They were steady, loyal, and rooted in trust. "When I'm gone, they'll split these between team leads who don't know them," she warned. "Half will leave within a year." "What do you want me to do?" I asked. "I want you to inherit them." The next day, our careful choreography began. Eleanor started introducing me as her trusted associate. We traveled to client meetings together, and she walked me through each company's history, quirks, and priorities. To the office, it looked like she was delegating due to health issues she'd vaguely mentioned. In truth, she was transferring her most valuable asset, client trust, to me. Nina from a boutique tech firm said Eleanor never brings anyone to our meetings. "You must be special." "Lauren notices things others miss," Eleanor replied without hesitation. Gabe, who ran a sustainable packaging startup, was more direct. "Are you taking over for Eleanor, just helping out for now?" I said, following our script. By month 3, I knew their operations almost as well as she did. By month 4, some were calling me directly. By month 5, we were ready for the legal step. "It must be airtight," Eleanor said. We met with her personal attorney, not the company's legal team. Contracts were drawn, signatures, notarized, client permissions documented. One by one, the accounts were officially transferred to me as primary contact. No one at the firm noticed. Their eyes were fixed on bigger accounts and year-end numbers. Only Daniel seemed suspicious, pushing for detailed reports. I gave him just enough to keep him guessing. "Daniel's been after my portfolio for years," Eleanor once told me. "He knows these clients mean stability." 2 weeks before her death, she invited me to her modest home. The final transfer documents were on her dining table. "Live within your means," she said. "Financial independence gives you options." I stared at the paperwork. Is this even legal? Completely? I'm transferring relationships I built, not company property. Keep them somewhere safe. 3 days later, her assistant called in tears. Eleanor had passed in her sleep. The company's response was swift: a polished email, a donation in her name, and a meeting where the CEO praised her legacy before pivoting to transition planning. At her funeral, I stayed apart watching the executive team perform their grief. The CEO's eulogy somehow framed her achievements as the company's. Daniel approached his expression, all sympathy, his eyes calculating. Such a loss, he said. We'll need to discuss transitioning her accounts soon. That evening, the CEO texted, "Bring complete client list to tomorrow's meeting." The next morning, I handed over an incomplete list omitting all 23 clients. "Where are the Pacific Northwest accounts?" he demanded. "I'm not familiar with those," I said smoothly. They searched. They found nothing. Eleanor had made sure of it. Meanwhile, I met my clients over coffee, reassuring them. Every one of them stayed. My termination meeting was less a surprise than a confirmation. As I carried my box toward the elevator, Daniel Whitmore intercepted me. "Before you go," he said quietly, "where are those Pacific Northwest files? This isn't personal, it's business. The company needs those accounts." I set the box down and met his eyes. "I have no idea what you're talking about." "Don't play games, Lauren. Those clients generate over $1 million a year. They belong to this company." I picked up my box again. "Actually, they belong to whoever they choose to work with." His face reddened. "Is that a threat?" "Just a fact," I said, stepping into the elevator. The doors closed on his glare, and I allowed myself a small, private smile. The morning after, I woke before my alarm. The absence of urgency felt strange, like a blanket I hadn't worn in years. Technically, I was unemployed. In reality, I was freer than I'd been in a long time. I made coffee and stepped onto my balcony, watching Seattle's waterfront stir awake. My phone buzzed with concerned texts from the few colleagues I trusted. Martha had sent 3 in a row. I replied simply, "I'm fine. Better than fine." Truth was, I'd been preparing for this day for months. The night before Eleanor's funeral, I opened a business checking account. 2 days later, I filed LLC paperwork. 3 weeks after that, I signed a lease for a modest office in a converted warehouse by the docks, walking distance from 5 of my new clients. Every step had followed Eleanor's precise instructions. "Don't rush," she'd told me. "Let them show their true colors first." And they had spectacularly. My phone rang, an unknown number. "Lauren Keating." "Ms. Keating, this is Gavin Stewart, Chief Legal Counsel for I Know Who You Are, Gavin." We'd met at company events, though he'd never remembered my name. "There's some confusion about certain client relationships formerly managed by Eleanor Grant. The company would like a meeting to clarify." "There's no confusion on my part," I said, sipping my coffee. "These accounts belong to the company. Redirecting them could constitute theft." I'd been expecting this. Any further communication should go through my attorney, Lorelei Chan. "This could be resolved amicably," he said, voice softening. "We'd consider a consulting arrangement to transition the accounts." "Goodbye, Gavin." I hung up and blocked his number. Minutes later, the CEO called. I let it go to voicemail. His tone was curt. "This is serious. Call me immediately." Instead, I texted Gabe, one of my biggest clients. "Still on for 10 a.m. "Absolutely. Bringing the new prototypes." I dressed in the charcoal pantsuit Eleanor once admired. "Power isn't about blending in," she'd told me. "It's about holding your ground." The office was sparse, just a desk, 2 chairs, and a conference table, but the harbor view made up for it. Gabe arrived on time, box in hand. "Nice place," he said. "Bit empty." "For now," I replied. "I'm starting small." He smirked. "Got a call from your old company. Some guy named Daniel." I couldn't help but smile. This was only the beginning. "Let me show you what we've been working on," Gabe said, opening his sample box. By noon, I'd confirmed 5 more client meetings for the next day. By 3, 7 more emails came in, all from clients reporting similar calls from Daniel or another executive at my former company. At 4, Lorelei called without preamble. They're threatening legal action. Breach of contract, client poaching, misappropriation of trade secrets. Exactly as Eleanor predicted, I replied. I've reviewed everything again, she said. The transfers were executed with full disclosure and client consent. You never signed a non-compete, and there are no trade secrets here. All the data was public or provided by the clients themselves. So we're on solid ground. Absolutely. But they don't know that yet. They're bluffing. Let them bluster. I've already requested all their supposed evidence. That'll buy us time while they scramble for paperwork that doesn't exist. After we hung up, I stood at the window watching boats move across Elliott Bay. Eleanor had loved this view. When we'd toured the office together weeks before her death, she'd stood in that exact spot. When they realize what's happening, they'll try to intimidate you, she'd told me. When that fails, they'll try to buy you. And when that fails... Her voice had softened, her eyes fierce. That's when you'll see exactly who they are. A text from an unfamiliar number broke my thoughts. Lauren, it's Quinn. Can we talk? Not company business, just talk. Quinn had taken the promotion I'd once been in line for. We'd never been close, but he wasn't as overtly political as the others. I hesitated, then replied, when and where tonight? That cafe near your old apartment. I frowned. How did he know where I used to live? I'd moved 6 months ago without telling anyone at work. I countered with a busy shopping district cafe, the Copper Kettle, at 7. I arrived early, choosing a table with a clear view of both exits. Quinn walked in exactly on time, looking tired, his usual swagger muted. Things are a mess at the office, he began after ordering coffee. The execs say you stole clients, that you and Eleanor conspired to defraud the company. They're building a case. They've pulled 5 years of emails questioning everyone who worked with you. There is no case, I said evenly. They're contacting every client claiming you misrepresented your authority to transfer accounts, offering steep discounts to keep them, and they're preparing cease and desist letters for all 23 businesses. I nodded. Anything else? They've frozen Eleanor's final compensation, citing misconduct. They're using it to pressure her family. A cold anger rose in me. Eleanor's sister had 2 kids in college. That money was theirs. There's one more thing, Quinn said. They offered me a big bonus to give evidence against you. And will you? There's no evidence to give. He stood. I never saw this meeting happen, neither did you. When he left, I called Lorelei. They've frozen Eleanor's compensation. They can try, she said. It won't hold. But they can tie it up for months, which is exactly what they want. Her sister needed that money now. I know. I'm working on it, I told Lorelei before ending the call. This wasn't just about me anymore. They were punishing Eleanor's family to get to me, and the thought sat in my stomach like a stone. The next morning, an email from the CEO landed in my inbox. Private meeting to resolve our differences. I forwarded it to Lorelei without responding. They're getting desperate, she replied. The legal threats aren't working, so now they're trying diplomacy. Stick to the plan. Eleanor's plan was a sequence of moves designed to give me maximum leverage. We were still early in the process, but the company was reacting exactly as she'd predicted. By week's end, all 23 clients had confirmed they were staying with me. My phone was blocked from their main lines, and Lorelei handled all legal communication. The panic I'd felt at first faded into steady determination. My days were filled with client meetings, setting up the new office, and building my company's foundation. Evenings were for strategy. I was sleeping better than I had in years until Friday afternoon. Zara called, her voice tight. Lauren, we have a problem. Your old company is telling our investors the contract transfer was illegitimate. They say it could kill our funding round. That's false, I said sharply. I know, but our lead investor is spooked. And... She hesitated. They offered to cut our fees by 40% if we go back. That's hard to ignore. It was the first crack in the wall. If Zara caved, others might follow. I get it, I said carefully. But we've been with you from the start, she added quickly. We trust you. Let me work on this, I promised. After hanging up, I paced my small office. They were targeting the most vulnerable client startups with investor pressure and tight budgets. I called Lorelei. They're playing hardball, she said. But so can we. You have something they don't. Eleanor's contingency plan. The next morning, I invited Zara to the office. Lorelei was already there along with a tall, silver-haired man I didn't recognize. Zara, this is Ambrose Tanner, I said. Eleanor's former mentor and founder of her first investment group. Zara's eyes widened. Ambrose was a legend in startup circles. Miss Daswani, he said warmly, Eleanor spoke highly of your work. I didn't know you were involved with Lauren's company, she replied. I wasn't until yesterday, he said, glancing at me. Eleanor asked me to step in if certain situations arose. This qualifies. For the next hour, Ambrose outlined a partnership that would not only calm Zara's investors, but accelerate her growth. By the time she left, the crisis was an opportunity. Verity never told me she'd spoken to you, I said after Zara was gone. She kept many cards close, he replied. She saved my company 20 years ago. I owed her. And I've been watching those executives mismanage talent for years. It's time they learned a lesson. Over the next 2 weeks, we repeated this pattern. Whenever my old company pushed, we pulled those clients closer, stronger than before. For Wade's custom furniture business, I connected him with 3 new retail partners. For Lark's organic skincare line, I secured a feature in a national lifestyle magazine. Each solution was tailored to the client's specific needs, the kind of attention my former company never offered. The executive team's tactics grew desperate. They called clients after hours, spread rumors about my company's finances, even posted a junior account manager outside my building to intercept visitors. Through it all, I kept the composure Eleanor had modeled. Never let them see you sweat, she told me. The moment you react emotionally, they think they've won. 3 weeks after my termination, an email from the CEO arrived. This has gone far enough. We're prepared to offer you a partnership with full executive privileges if you return the Pacific Northwest accounts. Offer expires in 48 hours. I forwarded it to Lorelei with one word, time. Her reply came fast, almost. That evening, I spread months of meticulous records across my dining table, contracts, transfers, emails, notes. My phone rang. Daniel's number. The offer is real, he said. Full partnership corner office executive package. And my role, strategic client management. So I bring back the accounts but don't manage them. Details can be negotiated. And I've been asked to facilitate the transition. Meaning they were desperate for me to say yes before quarterly numbers were due. After hanging up, I texted Lorelei. They've offered partnership. Her reply, exactly on schedule. Meet tomorrow. Bring everything. The next morning, I arrived at her office with a heavy briefcase. She introduced me to Diane from the Financial Crimes Unit. My pulse quickened. This was bigger than I'd anticipated. Ms. Keating, Diane began. I understand you have information on potential financial irregularities at your former company. I looked at Lorelei, who nodded. Yes, I said, opening the briefcase. I believe I do. Inside was only part of what Eleanor had compiled over 15 years, proof of systematic financial manipulation, far beyond creative bookkeeping. There were inflated contracts, hidden expenses, and revenue recognition tricks designed to pad executive bonuses while misleading shareholders. Why didn't she report this earlier? Diane asked. She tried. First internally, then to a board member. Weeks later, her department's budget was slashed, and staff were let go. Lorelei stepped in. The client transfers weren't just about helping Lauren start her own firm. They were to shield those clients from what's coming. And what is coming? Diane pressed. I handed over one last document and analysis proving the company had been overcharging while under-delivering hidden under complex contract terms. When this becomes public, I said their reputation won't survive. Eleanor wanted her clients safe before that happened. Diane gathered the papers carefully. This will take time to verify. Of course, I said. Eleanor knew that too. That's why she documented everything so thoroughly. As Diane left with the evidence, Lorelei gave me an approving nod. You've done exactly what Eleanor hoped, kept your composure, followed the plan, and delivered the final piece when it mattered most. So what happens now? I asked. Now we wait. But not for long. Leaving her office, I felt lighter, as if I'd finally set down a weight I'd been carrying for months. The last piece of Eleanor's plan was in motion. My phone buzzed with a text from the CEO. Offer expires at 5 p.m. today. Last chance. I didn't reply. There was nothing left to say. Instead, I headed to my waterfront office for 3 scheduled client meetings. Life and business would go on. As I unlocked the door, my phone rang. The number was unfamiliar, but I answered. Lauren Keating. Ms. Keating, this is Detective Reeves with the Financial Crimes Division. We'd like to schedule a formal interview regarding the documentation you provided this morning, and you may want to turn on the financial news. My hands trembled slightly as I pulled up the headlines. Securities investigation launched against major consulting firm amid fraud allegations. The article cited whistleblower documentation and systemic financial irregularities. The company's stock was already down 8% in pre-market trading. Notifications flooded in, clients confirming their meetings, Martha asking if I'd seen the news, and finally, a terse message from the CEO. What have you done? I set the tablet down, breathing deeply. This was the culmination of Eleanor's plan, justice not just for us, but for every client they'd exploited. By late morning, the situation escalated. Trading on the company's stock was halted after a 20% drop. Analysts dissected the allegations. Former clients were interviewed. By noon, executives were being photographed leaving the building with security escorts. By 2, the board called an emergency meeting. By 4, Daniel and 3 others were placed on administrative leave. Through it all, I kept my client meetings. Everyone wanted to talk about the news. Did you know, Gabe asked on a call? Let's focus on your product launch, I said, neither confirming nor denying. That evening, Lorelei called. The SEC wants formal interviews with 17 current and former employees. Your name's at the top. I expected that. They've also frozen all executive bonuses from the last 3 years. As for Eleanor's family, no. Her benefits are being processed separately. No one wants to look like they're punishing a deceased whistleblower's family right now. Relief washed over me. Good. That matters most. There's more, she added. They found Eleanor's original report from 3 years ago buried in a restricted server. The executives knew all along. Every one of them was complicit. I ended the call and watched Seattle's lights flicker on over Elliott Bay. Everything was unfolding exactly as Eleanor had planned. Then a text from Quinn. They're looking for scapegoats. Daniel says you and Eleanor fabricated everything. Let him, I muttered. The proof speaks for itself. I've been asked to give a statement, he replied. I'll tell the truth, you were the most ethical person in that building. Maybe not everyone from my old life was an enemy after all. The next morning, Detective Reeves arrived. For 3 hours, I walked her through every document, every discrepancy, and every failed attempt Eleanor had made to address them through proper channels. She kept meticulous records, Reeves observed. She believed in accountability, I said. Eleanor believed in accountability, I told Reeves. She used to say, integrity isn't about what you do when people are watching. It's about what you do when you think no one is. When Reeves left, I sat in my office, caught between vindication and loss. Eleanor had orchestrated everything so precisely, yet she wasn't here to see it. An unfamiliar number from her hometown lit my phone. Lauren, this is Iris, Eleanor's sister. I just received notice her benefits are being released in full. Their legal team suddenly became very cooperative. I exhaled in relief. There's something else, Iris said softly. Eleanor left a letter for you with my attorney. She wanted you to have it a month after everything. 2 days later, in Iris's modest living room, I held an envelope with my name in Eleanor's sharp, looping handwriting. Iris stepped outside to her garden, leaving me alone. The letter was dated a week before she passed. Lauren, if you're reading this, the plan worked. The company is under investigation, clients are safe with you, and my family's secure. I chose you not only for your competence, but because you noticed when something was wrong with me before I told anyone. You offered help without knowing why. That's rare. The portfolio I left you isn't just clients, it's an opportunity. Build something better. In the storage unit key in our safe deposit box, you'll find everything to finish what I started. The next morning, I unlocked the unit. Inside a single filing cabinet packed with 15 years of evidence, financial records, executive dealings, board member compromises. It was systematic corruption at every level. I called Lorelei and Reeves. Within days, the investigation widened. The board chair resigned, 3 more executives were suspended, and the stock plunged. Meanwhile, my firm's reputation for ethical results-driven consulting spread. 6 months after my termination, I moved into a larger waterfront office. My 5-person team, now including Nell, who'd left the old company the day the scandal broke, set up the new space. A package arrived, a framed photo of Eleanor on a windswept beach, sent by Iris. I hung it in reception with a plaque beneath. Success isn't climbing their ladder, it's building your own. That afternoon, Quinn arrived looking uneasy. I turned down a position they offered me, he said. Doesn't feel right being rewarded for surviving a system I enabled. We have a junior opening, I offered. Less money than you're used to, but honest work. You'd hire me after everything Eleanor believed in second chances. And you did warn me when you didn't have to. The week after Quinn joined, we hosted our office opening. Clients, friends, and former colleagues came. Iris stood near Eleanor's photograph, her eyes bright. The old company was collapsing under the weight of its own misconduct. I wasn't watching out of vengeance, but because building something better was the most powerful judgment of all. Eleanor had known it. Now so did I.